from that landslide side behind them, but now also having some really good vision on everyone in front of them, being right next to where that next ring's going to be, so they can kind of sneak out and go to their left and see if they can maybe get a little bit of a safer position. Same scenario with SKD, with the exception of having to worry about NRG, who are now down to that too. So those Western squads are looking comfortable. Meanwhile, Pioneers have been up at Grandma's house, and they're in a little bit of a back and forth here right now with Not Moist, who are looking to get aggressive, decided to back off, but the second all of that noise happens, there's potential for these other teams to collapse on them.
Or as you said it the other day, grandmother's house, which I think is far more quaint and much more appropriate as a British man for sure. But Pioneers and Not Moist, they certainly poised up against one another. But again, passive play. No one really wanted to take that fight. But we have 10 teams, maybe even 11, who are outside of this next zone. And everyone's got to move at the same time. So the kill feed is about to be completely lit up, like the 4th of July, fireworks in the sky at this point. Now, SSG, they are one of the teams who have to move. Let's have a listen and see how they do it.
Yep, slide up. You're good, you're good. Keep sliding left. Slide me, slide me. 1 second to smoke. Save your bloodhound.
Yep.
You're gonna have to ult soon.
I scan soon. Yep.
Ult soon, ult soon. Ult.
Right now?
Walk up with me. Yes. Ult and scan this.
Scanning.
Oh, you want?
Team below.
We need to scan mid. We need to walk up. Right side.
Yep. Nobody on our side, we're good.
Yep, coming.
Take under, we can take under.
You need to take under.
Pick up.
You need to take it.
Go. Two cracks. I see.
There's a team above you. Chill.
Can we get your friend? Playing us. Make sure
Back here. Hard watch it for me.
Scan 7. Pound him
Just chill me and look at this, okay? We all do this.
Pound him kit.
Look at zone.
They scan.
Scan this. Yeah, they might peek. Standing now.
Seeing them. Yep.
We're good.
A lot of people.
It's not worth peeking it.
You want to try to wrap, right?
No.
No,
You want to save scan for right?
Yeah, save scan.
Scan at 15.
Just hard watch that fucking staircase.
Yep, I'm.
Listen, can you scan from like all the way this corner? I want to see if it's a duo. It might be a duo.
Okay.
Yeah, scan all the way south.
Scan at 5.
One guy hit.
We got cracked.
Yep. Scan it.
I mean, they somehow snuck right in there and were able to claim that first floor of this building pretty much uncontested here, and now they know that there is a team directly above them, and obviously everyone else around them they'll have to worry about, but for now have bought themselves a little bit of time. Meanwhile, off in the wings, we've got Team Falcons down to a duo going up against TSM.
Yeah, TSM were shooting them from a distance, but Most Hated, again, it's Falcons and Most Hated who are kind of annoying each other, or at least Most Hated are annoying Falcons. They're like a thorn in their side, just as they were in the previous game. Falcons as a 2 are going to really struggle to hold off Most Hated here, because TSM are going to be kind of joining in this fight from those train tracks, but we have seen crazier things happen and more incredible things done by these two players. Maybe not on the same team before, but now they have a chance as a 2 to try and fight their way out of what is a very dicey situation.
I mean, we're losing lots of teams right now. We lost NRG trying to push their way into Pioneers, and now the push comes in from Most Hated. SSG down in the kill feed as well as they continue to do some damage onto Team Falcons, and they do go out. Most Hated clearing out this space, and now TSM know that they can try to look this way and maybe try to do a little bit of a third party, but either way, Team Falcons could do nothing where they were pinched.
Well, I said the kill feed was going to light up beforehand, but a lot of teams did find their way into playable space. We lost about 4 or 5 teams, but now it is going to get whittled down even more, because all these teams on the northeast side have to move at the same time. They were within buildings at the moment, but there's a lot of solos here as Gil tries to do what he can as a solo, but imagine he will fall, which he does. Not Moist and NGNL both go down at exactly the same time, as more teams now are just trying to desperately find anywhere to play here on World's Edge.
You've got Yup eliminated, Elevate eliminated. Most Hated does end up going down as that space continues to get cleared out. TSM has pushed their way out of that tunnel, and they're doing whatever they can to hold that space. They're now looking at fluffy aimers. Meanwhile, everybody's still in the city trying to hold what little bit of safety they can. You get a nice top-down view here of TSM and what they're trying to do. On the other side of this rock is exactly where fluffy aimers are, and they are the next squad that TSM has in their crosshairs.
Well, the only building that's going to be within the next bit of the zone is where Complexity and LG are currently scrapping, but TSM doing really well at taking a lot of space, spreading out as a 3 and really commanding this southern area. But it's the fluffy aimers who are down below them. They have taken a lot of damage, but TSM can't commit because they're being shot by other squads as well. Verholz goes down, but they may get an opportunity to reset here because the fluffy aimers have to climb if they want to make this push, and that is going to be a very reluctant climb.
Yeah, Fluffy Aimers do have a shield advantage, but like you said, it's a little bit of a little dicey situation with EEC looking their way, knowing that there's an engagement going over there. They've been kind of dealing that poke damage and being annoying in that back and forth between TSM and Fluffy Aimers as Fluffy Aimers try to make a wraparound and make that push onto TSM. TSM's able to get the reset. Rez does come through, and they're able to survive a little bit longer here in this match. Meanwhile, like you had mentioned, you've got LG and Complexity in a building scrapping. CCE is going to be forced out of their position soon as everything starts to collapse. And SKD, who had taken that Western choke, like I'd mentioned, is still holding it. They've managed to push their way through and clear out the space around them and now own the northern side.
Yeah, this is where the Dark Veils come down to give you protection. TSM have to make the push, but they've lost one already. But you can see Rex and Verhulst are still up and will get the remaining damage to win the fight. 7 squads now remain, but there is a lot of solos, a lot of doubles. Doublés are around, and TSM are one of them right now. They have to try and find their way in from the south, but other teams are going to have eyes on. You can see one member of KCP is still alive. Gent just desperately trying to avoid any sort of sightlines right now.
I didn't know you were bilingual.
I try my best.
It was beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful as EEC does go down in the kill feed. TSM just down to 1. Trying to do whatever he can, Reps. At least just gonna bunker down for a little bit, because I don't think anyone's necessarily looking the way of TSM as the solo for Pioneers goes down, giving some more placement points to TSM. There's no way he hits Moby, right? There's no way.
Surely not. As soon as SKD see this, they have to full send. They're a little bit worried, probably, SKD, about where the other teams are, but little do they know at the moment it's just a little game of hide and seek in this building between LG and Complexity. I thought it might end in a straight 3v3 in this final circle, but because that building having that corner just allows these two teams to stay alive next to one another, as now it is happening. Reps is making the play. SKD do see it, but SKD might just let it happen.
I mean, they have the Kraber in hand and some sightlines on Complexity and LG, which might be better for them to maybe try and take out, as they're going to be forced out of the building here very soon. TSM now back up to a full 3. Obviously won't be the same level of loot as everybody else, but at least have increased their numbers, as Dropped is trying to be as annoying as possible with the remaining Kraber bullets he's got.
Well, TSM can very much play a part in this final circle now. You're completely right. Might not have the same kind of attachments, but all the meanwhile, this is still happening. LG and Complexity scrapping, going toe-to-toe, but who comes out on top? It looks like it's Complexity, will be Complexity, and now they will hold this northeast side and can start to think about how they want to win this game. They're going to be below the train tracks. They'll have a little bit of cover, but the downside is there's a Kraber on the other side, and Complexity have to try and avoid that.
I think TSM might be looking their way as well, trying to decide which is the best fight to take, even though they know that Drop does have that Kraber in hand. The Bangalore ult comes out to start zoning, as well as the Catwall coming down to give a little bit of space for Complexity to make their move up, and they do make a successful wrap towards that top end. So now it's going to be in the hands of SKD.
Yeah, SKD have the height. The smokes have gone down. TSM really have their backs quite literally against a wall right now, but now we'll start to make their move. Can Complexity give them a distraction will be the real question. As Complexity now look across, and TSM have already lost one. It looks like this should be wrapped up by SKD, but SKD have everything you could possibly want.
They try to make their push up. TSM is finally eliminated, and all SKD have to do is drop down on the already injured Complexity to close out match number 2. And after doing a really, really good job of being patient on that western side, of dealing with the back and forth with NRG to the point where they push NRG away back through Skyhook, and that resulted in NRG being dropped down to a duo. SKD did exactly what they wanted to do with the western side of that zone, how they wanted to play it, and in the end, it paid off in spades.
TSM help get rid of Falcons, and then Ravens, SKD get rid of TSM. It's just poetry at this point in ALGS as the stories line up. But SKD, as soon as they were able to hold off NRG right at the start of that game, and they held that western side, they gave themselves such a good opportunity to win the game as the circle shifted their way, and they'll be delighted with that victory.
Yeah, I mean, lots of things that SKD did right in that situation. So a nice little match number 2 for them. But that was a tough zone. I think for a lot of those teams, we watched Pioneers try to make their way through and do what they could with the situation. We watched Fluffy Aimers kind of get stuck between EEC and TSM around that rock. Even though they had some really good loot and good shields, there was just a height disparity that they couldn't really navigate around, and they were pinched between too many people. I mean, that was just such an open zone for a lot of these teams that had bunkered down in buildings. Like you had said, they were really calling it to be more monument focused as far as that final circle went. And when everybody had to push out, it ended up kind of being really chaotic. But the one team that handled that well was Complexity. They won their fight against LG, and even if they didn't win the match, that additional KP will be big for them.
Yeah, and it's something that Complexity have done very well, and also something that has been very prominent in Pro League this season is even if a team doesn't find success and a victory, they are getting good kills on the board, and they are finding consistency to make sure they're at top of the leaderboards. And that's what we saw from Complexity last week, and it seems like that momentum has carried through here today, and they surely are going to be looking at today as a possible chance to get even more points. With performances like that, they only miss out on essentially winning this game by a point, but it is SKD who had the position in that final circle and find themselves picking up first place.
That is a really, really strong first and second place showing from both of those squads. I mean, nice placement points out of TSM. They just had such a strong position that they were able to hold for so long. It didn't necessarily lend itself to being aggressive and getting that KP, but at least overall getting some points on the board. We also got 5 to Fluffy Aimers down there as they were able to find people along their rotation and kind of pick them off as they went. And then 4 points to NGNL as well.
The fact that we had so many teams alive for so long, I think it was 13 minutes until we saw a team actually go down here in match number 2, meant that there was a lot of kills to be shared around because people kind of taking individual fights, people kind of finding solos that were scrapping around, and that's why we saw these points spread out so evenly, really, from 5th downward. There was only really the top 2 that picked up big points from this match.
Look at the damage, though, coming out of all of these teams. Like we said, I mean, it didn't convert into a lot of KP for TSM, but still right up there with 3,300, almost matching SKD's damage. And then the 3,800 out of Complexity, 1,600 apiece for Monsoon and Lou. I mean, you just got a chance to talk about Lou before we even got into this match, and he's living up to those numbers that we saw reflected in those stats. A really stellar match number 2 for all 3 of those squads. But we still have many more matches up left on the docket, so it's time for a short break, and when we return, match number 3 coming at you.
Herman Miller is the official chair partner of the Apex Legends Global Series. People to the ALGS and welcome back to World's Edge. We've got one more game to go on the map that we all know and of course love. 2 done, not much for the win in game number 1, and SKD game number 2 down. This is how things are looking overall, though. Complexity from the past with some good points.
I haven't made a single joke about SKD all day today, so that has to change here in match number 3, I feel, especially after a victory, but we'll get to that later. Complexity, 29 points as you mentioned. at the top between the top 5. We're starting to see some teams break away just after 2 matches. But what was important in match number 2 is the amount of kills that was spread out from about 50 downwards, because it was such a tight lobby and people were picking up kills here, there, and everywhere. It meant that everyone kind of stays within a chance of getting towards the top.
It's interesting to see that TSM as well almost managed to pull off the impossible. Verhulst gets that res on both Zap and Reps towards, excuse me, Reps gets the res onto both Verhulst and Zap in those final moments to give them an opportunity to be a part of that final circle as well. You thought for a second, maybe it's going to happen, and then you realize SKD have the entire zone with the Kraber as well. So pretty free game for them, worked very hard to get to that position, of course, but now it sets us up beautifully for match number 3. And my question to you, young Gaskin, is where are our super teams at?
Yes, considering the fact that, you know, SSG and Falcons were so far ahead in those overall standings, and we talk about, well, everyone needs to try and catch up. Well, this is their opportunity to catch up, because Falcons and SSG, neither of them have been able to get going so far. And I think this is what's going to happen with the POI draft. You are going to have rough weeks where sometimes the POI just doesn't go your way, but it's about finding a good amount of points from said POI. So you don't have to win the week. You don't even have to come top 5 in a week. Sometimes just getting top 10, if you have a rough position in that POI draft, could be everything when it comes down to the very end of Split 2.
And it's those things that we haven't had to think about in previous splits, right? That all of a sudden kind of raise themselves as situations that you have to accommodate for now that we have this POI draft. But as we head into match number 3, it's Complexity who are at the top of the leaderboards and put themselves in such a good spot in that last game. And also, Monsoon's changed things up. He's no longer on the Sentinel. He picked up a charge rifle in that game and was doing some pretty crazy things. And if you missed it last week, by the way, I think it was game number 2 on World's Edge where he played as a solo inside a zone with a Kraber.
Yeah.
Go back and watch it. It is absolutely nuts what he was doing in that game, and maybe do that after the games are finished today. If you're in Europe, maybe do it tomorrow because it's getting a little bit late. But SKD, the winners of game number 2. Oh, we're going to start off with them on their loop.
It'd be worth it for the Insomniacs, though. I am just saying. It was something a little bit special. Now, SKD, coached by Raven, I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm very excited to see how they progress, as you've got 3 incredible individuals on this roster, and now with Raven at the helm as the coach as well, then there's always going to be the opportunity for improvement across the board. Circle-wise, we're heading down to the southeast. Could be somewhere towards... I think it's probably going to be Big Mord at this point. I don't think we're going to pull as far down as Stacks. We saw this circle in EMEA just earlier on today where it pulled all the way to the southern side, but the circle isn't really covering that much. So where Empire are, I wouldn't be surprised if we're in more of a Big Mord finish here.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's going to be pulling away from Stacks a little bit, and this is an interesting decision to make, right? If you get ring console, you get that information, like, where do you play? Because the easy answer is Stacks, because there's going to be a playable space. Maybe you play Geyser and try and approach the choke a little bit later. I maybe would try and play that choke, but it's so difficult to play because you're kind of exposed from getting shot from teams rotating from Geyser, and of course the ones that are holding you out from Mord's side. So Big Mord is going to be a very good spot to play. It might pull out towards the paintball playground a little bit as well. It's a tough one. Bridge is going to be a good spot for quite some time, but also a little bit exposed. So I'm interested to see how teams navigate this. I think Prio is going to be Big Mord, but Empire are going to try and defend that with their with everything they have, because it's such a strong position.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at previous circles throughout this season, and there's not really anything that's been like this apart from the one we had in EMEA today, which was more Stacks focused. But I do think, just judging from scrims and, you know, enough ranked play, we're probably heading towards the outskirts of Big Mord. But you're completely right. Where you play is what is difficult. Now, this is an interesting one from Falcons. Taking the rocks on the far west eastern side allows them to push in behind other teams and get into Big Mord, but perhaps from an area where people wouldn't have been expecting.
So I want to maybe try and play a combination of the rocks and that little cart that you can... Zero was kind of tiptoeing around for a few seconds there. Empire trying to force them off as well. You can see already 2 teams inside a Mord. That tells you everything you need to know about where we believe this zone will be going. And Falcons with this spot, with this cover, do command quite a lot of space on the southern side of this zone. So interesting to see if there's an opportunity for them to put some more points on the board after a little bit of a slow start in the first 2 games. Elsewhere, the teams who have obviously had a pretty good start to things, like Complexity, they're still on their way down at the moment. SKD as well, still making their way. They're not even left thermal station as yet. Board's still over at launch site as well, so they've decided that maybe they're not going to have great prio. And speaking of making their way towards Stacks, well, Complexity, number 1 at the moment. That's going to be Kimchi. He has to do some work to get his team back into this game. He's got both banners, but it's not been the perfect rotate for them. 2 already down.
Yeah, sadly, after a very impressive game previously, they are going to have to try and rescue something here, which there is a chance maybe they can get back up at Dome if Kimchi can get away here, because Dome isn't occupied. We've already seen that Falcons move very quickly from Dome to get to that eastern side of Big Mord, so as long as Board don't beat Complexity to the race here, they should be able to get back up to a 3. Sadly, though, once Board see that dropship coming in, it's going to most likely end up being a push and a fight they have to take very quickly.
Well, LG are playing the truck. They've got the Watson as well in the composition. Good to see Watson back as well. I think a lot of people are starting to see the value of Watson as well, with a lot of the Bangalore ults that go down, a lot of the fuses with loads of grenades and knuckle clusters. It really does give you an opportunity to kind of negate some of the stronger things that a lot of the legends that are being picked in compositions do provide at the moment. And Kimchi does manage to get that res, but you can already see the problem, right? It's just not looking good for Complexity. They're getting chased down, and this was a race you were talking about. Board were trying to find them, and it looks like they have found them already.
Yeah, Monsoon out of the frying pan and into the fire, sadly. Board were waiting, more than happy. Well, that was a free gift from the heavens for them, and that's some extra KP. And now I do think Kimchi probably does get away, so Complexity can still go on their journey, and he can try to wrap for that once more. But yeah, it's sad news for Complexity. I think when they started to leave that dropship, they got the realization it was not going to go well for them.
Yeah, I think unfortunately he's not going to get the opportunity.
Oh, it's a last stand.
Yeah, it's a last stand, and even though there's a frag grenade on the floor, he's not going to get the opportunity to even see those damage numbers pick up, because Complexity will be eliminated. Kimchi tried the rescue mission, but unfortunately Complexity will still drown. It's going to be 19 squads then. Our first squad eliminated as Complexity will fall. Little scan comes in from Board. They will be fine. TSM are their closest competitors at the moment. They're all the way over in launch site.
Well, a little bit quicker to get our first team eliminated in match 3 rather than match 2. Not the 13-minute wait we had before, as everyone was kind of tentatively approaching one another and reluctant to take said fights. But this time, that was just too easy for Board as soon as they saw that dropship. Now, TSM might be their second fight they have to take, because TSM now are moving through Launchpad and might eventually do the same rotation, go towards Dome, and then try approach from the south. With a lot of these teams who are arriving late, there isn't any playable space. I know often we say, oh, there's not much playable space. There is no playable space kind of left around Big Mord, so you are going to have to take that space off of someone else.
Well, not most of the moment. Might have a little isolated fight on their hand. And Timmy, well, he's got the Sentinel. This time it's not charged up, but we've already seen what he can do with this gun. A little blind fire through the smoke, hoping to see some numbers pop up on his screen. Not going to happen this time. Has to avoid that Bangalore ult and just back up for a second. Also, he's taking quite a lot of damage, though, and that might encourage the team on the other side of this to have a little bit of a push. And it's SSG who are trying to make that push.
Well, SSG haven't been able to get going so far. Winning this team fight could be everything for them. They would then own the northern side and could maybe move through the geyser area and have an opportunity to force their way into zone. But it's Timmy with a Sentinel yet again, and we saw what happened last time. And Timmy's got the chance to do it again.
And most importantly here for not Moist, as a beautiful spray comes in from the Havoc from Walsey. That angle that was being held by Timmy allowed Walsey to get his heals away and get back up to full health to re-engage with this fight. And by re-engaging, he's doing so much damage for his team. Guild is going to swing on this one with the Volt. He gets the first knock onto Koi, and this is SSG not looking good. One player gets away for a few seconds, but SSG decimated, and it's 3 games in a row where SSG have barely got a point on the board.
Which, you know, is going to be annoying for them, but at the same time, their pick was in 18th position here today. So they knew all of the World's Edge POIs had already gone. So they were bound to have a difficult day when it comes to their POI positioning. But still, you'd expect more from them. They would expect more as well. But they'll have to now move over to Storm Point to try and find points to catch up with the rest of the lobby. Circle-wise, you may have seen it. We are heading down further towards Big Mord and Stacks. It is shifting a little bit further towards Stacks, so there is still a chance it could pull south, but it does look like somewhere in between is where we are going to head and end up. But most of those positions are taken, so you're going to get a few teams now that are going to take some of the fights in chokeholds, who are going to take some of the fights in the outskirts here just to try and find some KP.
Oh, really are having a little bit of a throwback today in the ALGS, aren't we? We've seen Watson coming back in. We're seeing scouts in the hands of players. It's What year is this? A very strange feeling for me to be. I'm like, what's going on right now? But it is going to be. You can see KCP and NRG having a little engagement, and this is an opportunity to go and third party this for NGNL. So an opportunity if some knocks come in for them to find some KP, but NRG not going to be able to connect with those shots. And Nocturnal now looking to put that right. A little bit of a spray coming in, gets the shield crack this time, but there is NGNL, and he has to back up. And luckily, he's got some double time to play with the Bangalore.
That's always frustrating when you're on the edge and you're chasing a team and you think it's going to be an isolated fight that you can potentially take and get some good armor, get some good loot, and maybe own that side. Suddenly there's a third party, and suddenly there's another team. And you're like, for goodness sake, can we get a break here? Because now NRG are going to have their backs against the zone, and they're going to have to try and force their way in when they're going to have two squads looking at them, because obviously they've given their position away by taking those shots. This is not going to be fun for them whatsoever.
Well, Hound's popping the double ult Excel to try and get that Bloodhound ultimate back as quickly as possible. Which usually gives you an indication that they want to take a fight, but Not Moist are not going to take any more fights in this lobby as they will be eliminated. Elevate will be the team who hold them out and manage to get those kills. So Not Moist winning game number 1, a good team fight win in game number 3 early on, but no more points to speak of in this game. Falcons being pressured a little bit here. And Hal taking a lot of damage. That is 2 HP. I won't say 1 HP, because that would be a lie to you all, viewers at home, and I'm not in the business of doing that to you. So 2 HP. Medkit now, 100.
The CEO playing it perfectly, right? He knew exactly how much health he is going to have.
Calculated.
All part of the plan. That was dicey.
Much said.
Had he gone down there, that could have been very detrimental to Falcons, but luckily, just about escapes, and now Falcons can hold this southeast side, and the circle is going to continue pulling down the stacks. I was worried that those teams who were committing to stacks might have to force their way out, but it's going away from Big Mord now, so this is great news for those who had to take stacks because of the lack of playable space that had already been taken by the other teams. The 8 squads that are currently in Big Mord, bad news for them.
Choice words, I imagine, will be said. Elsewhere, this is TSM versus Falcons. And it looks like Falcons are getting the upper hand. TSM will be eliminated, so Falcons make the push onto TSM in this truck and clear them out. CC also eliminated in the meantime. It always feels good against your ex-teammates to win that team fight.
It means now Falcons will hold the eastern side. They do have a building to work with, but depending on where this zone shifts, it's going to be a tough one for them if it does head a little bit further west, because there's about 5 teams that are ahead of them now. But I think the bigger question is, all these teams on the north over towards Big Mord and arriving from Geyser, where on earth do you go here? Because you could maybe try and play the eggshells just above stacks, but there's a couple of solos who are ratting around that will play a part in that. You're also going to have a lot of eyes from the taller buildings and stacks that are going to grief you from a distance as well. So there is going to be a experience. You've also got teams that will be arriving from the west. SKD on the train tracks. You've got NGNL, who we saw a little bit earlier. They're going to be arriving late as well. A lot of teams and a lot of guns get some damage here and pick up some kills.
Taking a little bit of damage himself. Hal down to 40. Making sure a little bit of space here for them to make sure that they're not that truck. The only problem is Eternal is forcing him to burn even more heals.
Yeah, Eternal being very annoying to Falcons at the moment, and I think sums up the first 3 games. A team that's been a thorn in their side and not allowed Falcons to play the game that they want. That's also one of the reasons why I love the POI draft, because you get different places who can be that annoyance and can really change how things are going to be in a lobby like this. Now, I mentioned these train tracks. They will be able to hold this position. Do they know NGNL? Yes, they do now. Most of them just north.
Wall goes down. It looks like SKD are thinking about just poking information. However, scanning is one thing. Alive is another altogether. And step out and manage to get out. Go down as they try and make their rotate ahead. LG taking engagement as well over at Big Mord. LG members. Slayer looking at this scan that he's managed to get in.
They want to try and find these NGNL members, and they will. Meanwhile, SKD, they got out of dodge. They avoided it. They recognize it as a big threat on that northwest area, and now SKD will play the eggshells. Now the eggshells is important because it was one of the positions I was talking about. eggshells might be the first place you can really find cover.
Jeez.
So where do you go, right? If you try and go south, you're going to go into LG. If you try and go to the west, you go into SKD and Elevate. So sometimes you can't go through it, you have to go over it. Maybe an evac tower to going in stacks, but then you're going in blind, and then you're really trusting your gut feeling at that point. It's going to be rough.
I mean, this is going to be rough for everybody involved. Look at this game. I mean, 3 buildings safe for quite some time. To pull out from those buildings in the open. So, a really, really tough zone to try and win here. This is like one legend that we aren't seeing in competitions right now. LG are getting Die Nasty will clean them up. That's going to be most hated. And Die Nasty will be able to bottom floor of the building that's going to be safe right in the little corner for a little bit of time. SKD now under pressure.
I think it's going to be very similar for a lot of teams in stacks because all these teams are on the northern side. They're going to be full sending to get into one of these buildings. SKD have to take the fight against Elevate though because they're arriving from this northwest. And at the moment they go back up to a full 3, they go back up to 4, and they still get this fight.
Oh, it's such a good swing as well. Look at the damage that's coming in as well. Everybody times it well. Even though Marshall Clock will go down, the knockdown shield won't be enough. SKD who pick up some more points with those kills. Elsewhere, Falcons now, they're in a fight. They're as well against the Colonel. So the fight has been ready to take place for quite some time, finally done. And now they will control this side of the zone.
Falcons ripped that to one side. It was more like a splinter for the Falcons at that point. It's really annoying, but when you eventually get it out, boy, does it feel good. You have to consider how on earth they get into stacks here, because there's Yup, who will be watching them, Empire Gaming and Most Hated all from the building they find themselves in. So it's going to be a really intriguing rotation for Falcons. The same could be said for SKD from their northwestern side. They're going to have a difficult journey too.
Safe. You can see a lot of players understandably stacked up on the construction building right now. A lot of teams as well, as you'll see the respawn coming now for drop, so SKD will be back up to a full 3, which is a much better opportunity to fight your way in. However, 2 teams look at them, both Yup and Weave, so when they leave Dome and dropped leaves the drop ship, question will he be able to land with even some shields? He manages to navigate that pretty well. Also, he finds himself a little loot box to play with.
Yeah, great. Well, but instead, let's go to a skid mark listening. So that allows me to say that name. Let's see how they do.
Okay. Outside right. We
yes,
get
outside right.
Pretty much.
I'm gonna get a kill on their door.
Get a scan on apartment, please, whenever you're ready.
Scanning. No scan for 20.
No one's on bottom. No one is on bottom.
Okay.
You guys ready?
Second floor, maybe. Yep.
Yep, broke a second. We gotta just
Okay.
fucking send it. Slide.
Safe.
Play to me.
I got nuke. I got nuke. I'm batting here.
Watch you're good.
Yeah, watch underneath. Watch the fucking, watch that ship.
Tunnel team could peek.
Wait, this is good on me. This is good on me. Come here.
There is a tunnel team. Yes, play the right side. On it.
I have 15%. I have
Give me
1
shields. Give me a bat.
I only have 1 bat. I dropped
I only have one.
Yeah, I'm good on shields here. Take those.
I have no meds as well. Got
Scanner.
for instructs.
Wait, no one is in this fucking building, I don't think, bro.
Okay, get
Yeah,
out.
I'll wait for next. I'll wait for next.
I have 1 3%. Stay healthy.
Yeah, they can peek you out the window. Don't peek out.
I have wall. We need to get a scan. What's your scan at?
8.
Okay.
You want me to scan this?
Yes, scan
literally
that building. Yes. I think we smoke to the staircase and you wall us.
We should wait till zone, you think? It could
No,
go right
scan the
to
fucking building. There is no one there. Ready? We ready?
Yeah.
You ready? Let's go.
Yeah.
Come on, come to me.
Catwalk.
I walled.
Sometimes you just need to be told what to do, and Dropped is showing what you have to do sometimes as an IGL. They recognize no one is in this building whatsoever, but crossing to it is a different thing altogether, and Dropped for the second time in just a few moments will go down.
And you mentioned it earlier, such a difficult circle to play. I don't think we've seen it for quite a while. I think it probably was the Gibraltar meta when we last saw a circle like this, when Snipe Down came out of the dropship with his heirloom and beat someone down for the final kill. But SKD will get back up to at least a 2, and they will survive for now. But this is going to be mental. It's called stacks for a reason, right? It allows for a lot of teams to play on top of one another. And we have, what, 9 squads still remain at this point, at this stage of the game? Going into the 11 squads going into this final circle, excuse me. Mark, I hope you as a play-by-play are ready, because this kill feed is going to be nuts.
Let me take a deep breath. Okay. I'm ready. Falcons got to be careful here. A few shots coming in from above. A lot of teams obviously aware of their positions. You got to remember, most teams in this lobby, pretty much all the teams in this lobby, will be running the Bloodhound to give them the information, but this is a really tough spot to rotate from. They're hoping some fights will break out above them, but everybody is kind of looking down instead of at each other. No lines of sight that are available for the teams who are on top of each other, on each other. It's just a case of surviving for now. Falcons have to wrap their way around the front of this building, but you've got Most Hated who are waiting for them as well on the other side. Yup and Weave still there as well. As Falcons find a little corner to play, and look at this corner now.
I like this corner.
Now you're going to see some shots come in. Pioneers will be eliminated in the meantime, and Falcons have to retreat back to the edge of this zone.
If you can play on the low ground here, you do have a chance of winning this game. Both Most Hated and Falcons are in a good spot, but now they might have to fight against each other as it is mayhem. It's pandemonium at this point. Everyone's starting to get involved in this fight.
Well, Jim Burton's the last alive here. He's going to have to try and clutch for his team. It's good damage. It's hit fire damage. But the team dropping down from the high ground. He's just trying to secure KP for his team. Empire gone. Falcons gone as well. We're down to 7.
Blind pick. I'm going for Most Hated. It's difficult to predict, but they are in a good spot right now as we're down to 6 squads, as you mentioned. There are 4 teams on the southern side, all in this building, though. Fluffy Aimers have the height. Board go down. 5 teams now left.
We've also gone as well. Fluffy Aimers, like you say, they do have the height, but they will have to drop. And when they drop, they will be stunned. Oxygen Esports eliminated in the meantime. SKD go down, managing to get into that top 4, as now we are left with 3. NRG are going to be one of those teams. Most Hated and the Fluffy Aimers up on top. Surely this is Fluffy Aimers just going to wait for the damage to be done.
The Fluffy Aimers, how fluffy will their aim be is the real question as they arrive to the party just the right time. 1, 2, 3, as easy as ABC. Fluffy Aimers get the job done, and they find the victory as they arrive last to the party.
Just waited for the zone to close, waiting for the 2 teams to move into each other. By the way, that end zone is, I would say, unrelenting when it comes to being able to play it. A very, very tough end zone to really be engaging with. Very difficult for all the teams in the surrounding areas to get access to. So that's one maybe that the teams will think, hey, we don't want to see that one again. But for us, very entertaining as viewers to see. And it's going to be the Fluffy Aimers who have the best aims when it comes to the end of that game.
I wonder if that's a record in most recent times of teams alive in the final circle. 11 squads. North America is certainly showing that this region is so difficult to tear apart at the moment to try and find anyone to really be ahead of the game, certainly in this lobby, because everyone's so closely contested and no one taking these early fights. Everyone respecting one another right now. And I think that is the story of A and B. So many good teams that you don't really want to push a fight because you don't know who could be around that corner.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting game, and it was a real test of the IGLs in that one as well, because I'm not sure that anyone was really 100% confident in where it was going. We thought it was going Maud. A lot of teams obviously thought it was going Maud from their early positioning as well, and then the pull back to stacks, and then the pull into the pit just outside of the construction building is something I haven't seen for quite some time, I have to say, and that's including scrims, that's including a lot of games played. So a little bit of a surprise for many, many people, but it's Fluffy Aimers on top of that construction building who do get the win in the end. But I think that's one of the craziest end games I've seen for where we actually finished that game.
Yeah, and it could have gone a different way. One of the teams on the low ground could have potentially won it had there been a moment of respite, but sadly there was no real opportunity to reset for any of these teams because of the amount of squads in the final circle. If it was like a similar final circle but only 3 teams, for example, maybe the team on the high ground suddenly doesn't get the opportunity to drop for free because more people can look up towards it. But because everyone's focus down low was on one another to try and find kills, it just allowed such an easy game at the end for the Fluffy Aimers.
Yeah, very, very simple for them to just clean up the final pieces, essentially. Sometimes when we see the team on height, we're waiting for what happens below. You're expecting one team to be able to survive, like you say, and wait for them to drop and be able to get that initial damage. But so much damage was done. It was such an easy job for them to clean up. And with the 10 kills alongside the 12 placement points, it will be 22 points going to the Fluffy Aimers. NRG securing second as well with 8 KP alongside it. So 17 points overall. Most Hated again up there with 9 kills and 7 placement points. It means 16 more points for them. They're having a great day.
Team Falcons did pick up 8 kills, which gets them 10 points on the board. Nothing to be sniffed at, especially with the difficult journey they had to make from the east after they were getting kind of annoyed and griefed by a team that was just a little bit ahead of them. As we go to the bottom half of the leaderboard, though, there's a few teams that really did struggle. We did see a couple of early exits this time. Both Complexity and SSG fell. It wasn't the same as match 2 where we had to wait a long time for fights to happen or teams to be eliminated. Not Moist, they did win that team fight against SSG. They got 3 points on the board, but sadly, because they arrived so late, there was already a team to hold them out and get them at the choke point.
I mean, that was a very different stacks ending than what we saw out of EMEA, and wildly exciting. And gotta give a shout out here to Fluffy Aimers as well, because last time these two groups saw each other